Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this week's Monday Zen and Zazen class. Tonight I will talk about Suzuki Roshi's Zen mind, beginner's mind, but before that, as always, let's sit together for 30 minutes. Thank you for joining, and thank you to Julian for reminding me I was muted. I don't know how that happened during Zazen. I didn't hit the mute button, but somehow, I don't know, I got muted. So I hit the bell and I was wondering, why is everybody continuing with the Zazen? You didn't hear the first strike. Anyway, so today I will continue talking about a Zen mind, beginner's mind. The chapter that I want to talk about today is called the Marrow of Zen. In the Zazen posture, your mind and body have great power to accept things as they are, whether agreeable or disagreeable. Later, I'm going to share the text with you, maybe the first page or so. I will try to summarize in my own words. Suzuki starts with a metaphor for a sutra from a sutra about the four horses. And Dogen Zenji is using the same metaphor also in his main work, the Shobo Genzo. There's one chapter called The Fourth Horse. The metaphor goes as follows. At one time, the Buddha said there's four types of students, just like four different types of horses. The first horse moves when it sees the shadow of the whip. So the rider is using this whip to hit the horse, but he doesn't even need to hit the horse. The horse moves even before the rider moves the whip. So that's the first horse. The second horse moves just before the whip touches the skin. And the third horse moves when the whip touches the skin and it hurts. And the fourth horse only moves when the whip has penetrated the flesh and is kind of going to the bone. So that's the worst horse, so to speak. And basically, those four types of students, some students are almost able to read the mind of their teachers, while others you have to tell them again and again. And in the old days in Zen monasteries, sometimes the teachers would even hit their students because they would sleep all the time, whatever. And then Suzuki Roshi continues, most of us thinks that we would like to be the best horse. We would like to become like the first horse. But in Zen, actually, there is no good or bad. Actually, sometimes it can be better to be the fourth horse than aiming at being number one, the first horse. And now let me share parts of the text. Let's start here. If you practice Zen in the right way, it does not matter whether you are the best horse or the worst horse. When you consider the mercy of Buddha, how do you think Buddha will feel about the four kinds of horses? He will have more sympathy for the worst horse than for the best one. This might maybe come as a surprise to Western readers, because usually we don't think of the Buddha as somebody who's helping us with our practice and that he's helping the worst one first. It's more familiar to East Asians because in East Asia, Zen is very popular in China, in Korea, and in Japan, but also Pure Land Buddhism. And Pure Land Buddhism teaches that the Buddha helps those who can't find salvation through their own power. Those who cannot become Buddhas through their own power will be helped by Amitabha. Um, and I think Suzuki Roshi is a little bit inspired by this very popular belief that who do you think the Buddha has most sympathy with? Certainly not with the best horse, because, well, the best horse doesn't need the mercy of the Buddha. Sometimes it can be better to be the worst horse, because the worst horse is the one that's going to receive the attention and the mercy of the Buddha. And let me continue. When you are determined to practice Zazen with the great mind of Buddha, you will find the worst horse is the most valuable one. In your very imperfections, you will find the basis for your firm way-seeking mind. In Japanese, Bodaishin, way-seeking mind, or the mind of Bodhi, awakened mind. So there's two kind of aspects to way-seeking mind. It's both the mind that's seeking for the way, but it's also the mind of the way. It's awakened mind and at the same time mind seeking for awakening. And Dogen Zenji sometimes defines it as the mind that has seen impermanence. You realize everything is changing, nothing is stable. People are dying, I am dying. And even if I wake up again tomorrow, the me of today is gone. I live this person today, this day of my life. I live it only once. And if I don't practice now, even if I practice tomorrow again, it's not going to be my practice of today. So that's one definition that Dogen Zenji gives of way-seeking mind. You only have today. And if you don't practice, nobody can practice for you. Another definition comes in the instructions for the cook. There, Dogen Zenji says, joyful mind, parental mind, and big mind, magnanimous minds. Those three minds basically stand for way-seeking mind, Bodhi mind. Being happy to be born into this world as a human being and being able to study Buddhism and to find a community of like-minded practitioners, having joy about that, caring for others like you would care for your only child without expecting anything in return. And then a mind that's as big as the ocean so that it can accept all of the rivers to flow into it. And then at the end of his life, Dogen Zenji says, Bodhi mind means the wish to help others before anybody helps you. So to forget about your own salvation and rather to wish to be of help to others. So these are all definitions for way-seeking mind. So it does not only mean the aspiration to at one stage, one nice day, reach enlightenment, but in a way it's already enlightened mind. It is the mind of a bodhisattva. These two, for at least Dogen, they go together. But let me continue with what Suzuki Roshi says. In your imperfections, you will find the basis for your firm way-seeking mind. Those who can sit perfectly physically usually take more time to obtain the true way of Zen, the actual feeling of Zen, the marrow of Zen. But those who find great difficulties in practicing Zen will find more meaning in it. So I think that sometimes the best horse may be the worst horse, and the worst horse can be the best one. If you study calligraphy, you will find that those who are not so clever usually become the best calligraphers. Those who are very clever with their hands often encounter great difficulty after they have reached a certain stage. This is also true in art and in Zen. It is true in life. So when we talk about Zen, we cannot say he is good or he is bad in the ordinary sense of the words. The posture taken in Zazen is not the same for each of us. For some, it may be impossible to take the cross-legged posture. But even though you cannot take the right posture, when you arouse your real way-seeking mind, you can practice Zen in its true sense. Actually, it is easier for those who have difficulties in sitting to arouse the true way-seeking mind than for those who can sit easily. Before, Suzuki Roshi said that the posture is extremely important, that even you could say the posture in itself is enlightenment. A couple of chapters before he said that. To take the right posture means enlightenment. But here he says, for those for whom it's easy to take the right posture easily, actually it's more difficult. While for those for whom it's difficult, it's easier to nourish way-seeking mind. So you grow with the obstacles on the way, you could say. When we reflect on what we are doing, when we reflect on what we are doing in our everyday life, we are always ashamed of ourselves. One of my students wrote to me saying, "You sent me a calendar and I am trying to follow the good mottos which appear on each page. But the year has hardly begun and I already have failed." Dogen Zenji said, Shoshaku Jushaku. I don't know if there's any Chinese readers here, but for those of you who can read the characters, I can copy them in the chat function. That's not a very common phrase in Japanese. If you read it as a common present-day modern Japanese, you would say Shosaku, Shu-saku. So it's pronounced a little different. In Buddhism, it's Shoshaku Jishaku. And the common meaning is basically what Suzuki Roshi also explains after this. It means make one mistake after the other, making one mistake after the other. But Dogen Zenji, when he uses the phrase, he uses is more like learning from your mistakes, making a mistake, but then understanding the mistake, penetrating the mistake. But interestingly, Suzuki Roshi seems to refer more to the common present-day reading. He explains it as this. Shoshaku Jushaku means to succeed wrong with wrong, or one continuous mistake. According to Dogen, one continuous mistake can also be Zen. A Zen master's life could be said to be so many years of Shoshaku Jushaku. This means so many years of one single-minded effort. We say a good father is not a good father. Do you understand? One who thinks he is a good father is not a good father. One who thinks he is a good husband is not a good husband. One who thinks he is one of the worst husbands may be a good one. If he is always trying to be a good husband with a single-hearted effort. So that's the point. It doesn't just mean to make one mistake after the other, but to make mistakes, but then realize that you're making mistakes and learning from the mistakes. That's the point here. If you find it impossible to sit because of some pain or some physical difficulty, then you should sit anyway, using a thick cushion or a chair. Even though you are the worst horse, you will get to the marrow of Zen. And now let me jump to the final part. When you feel disagreeable, it is better for you to sit. There's no other way to accept your problem and work on it. Whether you are the best horse or the worst, or whether your posture is good or bad, is out of the question. Everyone can practice Zazen, and in this way work on his problems and accept them. When you are sitting in the middle of your own problem, which is more real to you, your problem or you yourself? The awareness that you are here right now is the ultimate fact. This is the point you will realize by the Zen practice. In continuous practice, under succession of agreeable and disagreeable situations, you will realize the marrow of Zen and acquire its true strength. The marrow of Zen. Don't aim to be the best horse. Sometimes it's better to be actually the worst horse. Life is one continuous mistake, but the important point is you can learn from this mistake if you realize the mistake as a mistake. And therefore, it can be better to be a bad father as long as you realize you're a bad father and not pretend that you're a good father, a good husband. Sometimes you don't feel like doing Zazen, but sit anyway, because in those times when it's most difficult, that's when you grow. That's when you learn from your practice. Okay, so that was the Marrow of Zen chapter, and we still have time for questions or things you would like to share. Any questions? Anything you would like to share? Jan, please.
Okay, I have a question that I believe it's related to the Marrow of Zen. That the question is, what defines Zen? So it could define Zen the emptiness or the shape around the emptiness or both. So this would be the question, but I would ask it in different ways. So if a person is living in the present, meditates in emptiness and has stepped out of the map of or the game, but this person is not bowing to Buddha or to the four bodhisattvas, or he's meditating in a posture different than the one proposed by the Zen masters. Is this person still practicing Zen?
I don't think so.
Why?
Because this person doesn't think that it's the worst horse. That person seems to think it's completely okay to not bow to the Buddha. So that person thinks he's like a father that's a bad father, but still he thinks, oh, it's okay to be a bad father. I'm not a perfect husband, but it's okay to be not to be an imperfect husband. As long as I understand emptiness, why should I bow to the Buddha? Why should I follow the rules of the Sangha? How could you help a horse like that? You don't have to be a good horse, but you need to learn from your mistakes. And if you don't realize those mistakes or you try to justify them and pretend they are not mistakes in the first place, it's all about emptiness. It's not about following rules or bowing to the Buddha. Might be difficult to practice the way. If you have difficulties following the rules, you have difficulties bowing to the Buddha, but you try it anyway, although it's difficult, then you will grow. But if you look for reasons why it's totally okay not to bow to the Buddha, to the Buddha. Um, you are in a completely different category. You're none of those four horses, but I don't know. You would be kind of a wild fox, you would say, in Zen. You're somewhere out there and it's hard to help you. Any other questions? Anything else you would like to share? Julian, please.
Yeah, I just wonder in that horse sequence, there's a bit of biography, isn't there, possibly for Suzuki? Because I know he thought he wasn't the best student, and he got a lot of stern criticism from his master, who called him crooked cucumber. And
Mm,
he said
mm.
that, maybe it's good to be a crooked cucumber. Even the crookedness is useful. So I just wondered if that's a bit of autobiographical from the heart stuff there.
Yeah, and I could imagine that many of us find parts in our biography where at the time it was really difficult. We had a great difficulty in our lives, but we learned most from those years than rather those years when everything went smooth and but we maybe didn't grow so much during those years. So I'm sure he's also talking about his own calligraphy, his own biography, maybe also the calligraphy. I'm not sure why he made the calligraphy comment there, but I'm sure it's about his biography. Mm. I think it was in one of my talks to Antaiji a couple of weeks ago, where in the end somebody asked this question about, I think it was about kind of responsibilities in the monastery. And mm, from a, how do you say, pragmatic point of view, it makes most sense if you give the job to a person who's best suited. So somebody who can cook is best suited to become the cook. Somebody who's good with their hands might be responsible for repairing machines. Somebody who's more kind of intellectual might care for, I don't know, finances, bookkeeping, stuff like that. But often in the monastery, jobs seem to be given exactly to the person who's most worst suitable, who's the least suitable to do the job. It happened to me that I was often given jobs where, why do you give that job to me and to another, not to somebody else who could do the job? But the reason is that those are the jobs from which you learn most. While a job that is easy for you, there's no learning involved there. Um, might make sense from running the monastery that everybody does the job that suits him best, and then things run smoothly. But from this point of view of growing from the obstacles, because of the obstacles that you encounter, sometimes it can be the best thing to give somebody, well, the worst job, so to speak, the worst job for him. Any other questions? Anything else you would like to share? Devin, please.
Yeah, I host a sitting group at my house a few days a week, and I recently, in maybe the past 7 months, started sitting full lotus, and it seems like a lot of people that come to sit get wrapped up in the perfection of the sitting posture, and this is a really nice part of the book, and it just spurred on like how do you encourage people to let go of
Mm.
ideals about um, is this right or wrong? And sometimes I'm at a loss I'm not in a position to teach anybody, but I I sometimes don't know how to encourage people to not care as long as they're sitting. So I was just curious
Mm.
about um, when people get wrapped up in maybe more of the outward appearance of their sitting practice versus the inward part of the sitting practice.
What are you worrying about, or
I guess
what
when
is the question?
people would ask like, "Oh, should I be sitting full lotus? Is that
Yeah,
zazen?" Or
yeah,
they're
yeah.
comparing their postures to others. Like, how do you encourage people to let go of that?
Mm. I mean, well, that's basically what Suzuki Roshi is trying to say here. It's not about being the best horse. It's not about that comparing ourselves, comparing our postures. I use this metaphor of the game. We since the age of 3 or 4, we are playing the game, comparing ourselves to others, always trying to be better than our brothers and sisters, better than our classmates. Want to be the best in the company. You want to make a career. And at one point, you realize that's stupid. So you um, start with a spiritual path. But sooner or later, maybe unconsciously, you start to do the same thing there too. You want to have the best posture. You have to want to have the most enlightenment experiences. You want to be the best. So you might remind people that, hey, you're still playing the same game. Other people compare the cars that they drive or the clothes that they wear, and now you're comparing your full lotus to others. It's not about who's sitting in the best way. On the other hand, there's also then the people who say, well, if that's true, then why should I worry about my posture in the first place? So the other side, that the posture is of extreme importance. You could even say that the posture itself is enlightenment. Enlightenment expresses itself in the posture. I think this also needs to be emphasized. Mm, so you have both types. Those who want to be the best sitters and those who think that who cares about the posture? I'm happy to be the worst horse because the worst horse is the best horse. Didn't Suzuki Roshi say so? Yes, but only if you try. Only if the worst horse tries to be a better horse. A bad father who's happy to be a bad father is just a bad father. It's not a good father. A bad husband who's totally happy about being a bad husband, who cares? Um, that's not a good husband. That's just a bad husband. Mm. But yeah, we shouldn't try to impress others. We shouldn't even try to impress ourselves. We should stop comparing ourselves to other or comparing ourselves to ourselves from last year. Have I improved? Look at how I have improved. I think there was another one of you who raised his hand, but it has disappeared yet. Was there another question? Dejan? 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 I don't know how to pronounce your name. Please.
Hello, everybody. We are hearing ourselves. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Hello. Hello. I'm from Slovenia. So hello from everybody. Thank you very much. I can be part from this kind of. It's really interesting for me. I have just one question. I have really practical question. I will share just a bit story with you all. 3 months ago, I lost a good paid job. So now I am, I find myself in very strange position, and I think I'm not the only one, but I started to think about everything.
Great.
And and when I watched a bit your videos, yes, Mujo, and it started to be, I was a little bit relaxed, I was not so it was not so harsh for me. So I don't want to attain enlightenment. I just want to, if I can help myself with maybe Zazen, or I don't know how to do it to get this job, something. But it's a conflict, it's really, really conflict. I'm trying every day and so on and so on, and with no result. And then I ask myself, maybe I can, I don't know, try that I don't think about it and just do it. I don't know. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm not quite sure if you asked a question, and if yes, what it was. What can I do to get?
What can I do that I can speed up this process to get some kind of job, because temporary is a bit hard here. Yes. It's contradiction, because I needed to have, but at the same time, it's not good to push too much.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you.
You need to try, but you can only do what you can do.
Yes.
And as Suzuki Roshi says in this chapter, sometimes kind of, stumbling and hitting your knee, falling on your face, or in this case, losing your job, can also be kind of an opportunity to grow, or otherwise you might have never really thought deeply about your life. So in a way, you might even be thankful that you've stumbled, lost your job. But of course, then don't be happy to lie there on the ground. But you need to get up, and at one point there's going to be another chance, but you can't force it. You can't force it. But if you're ready, you offer yourself as somebody who's willing to give his best, then at one point or another, people will say, hey, we need you. Hey, we can use you. Any other questions? Anything else? If not, it's already 9:05 here. So thank you for joining. Next week, I'm going to continue with this book here, To You by Sawaki Roshi. And would be happy to see you again. So also thank you to Xuan for hosting us here. Have a nice week. See you.